Welcome to the Your Pennsylvania Ancestors podcast. In today's episode, I have a conversation with Northeast Pennsylvania Genealogical Society Sara Klinges, President, and Sandra Panzitta, Treasurer. They are fabulous resources if you have any ancestors in Lackawanna or Luzerne Counties of Pennsylvania. You will be amazed at the vast collection of genealogical records that they have just waiting for you. Don't miss the memorable stories of discovery that they share at the end of the episode. Have a question or need help to complete your Pennsylvania research? Go to paancestors.com and click Leave a Question. You'll leave a voicemail for me, a little audio recording of a couple minutes, and I'll be able to use that on a future episode of the podcast. I think that'll be fun. And now, here's my conversation with Sara and Sandra. So if you could introduce yourselves, talk about your society and what counties you cover, so when people are listening, they get an idea of who you are.
Well, Denise, first, thank you for having us. We very much appreciate this opportunity to speak about our society and introduce ourselves to a larger audience. So thank you very much. About Northeastern Pennsylvania Genealogical Society, otherwise known as NEPGS. We have been around for 27 years and started just a group of, I'll say, local family researchers that would meet at the public library. And over the course of 27 years, they incorporated, they purchased a small one-room building, quickly outgrew that, moved to a second location, outgrew that, and as of last year, we are in our present facility, which is absolutely beautiful, located in Wilkes-Barre, Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. We are 2 blocks away from our county courthouse, which is convenient, and we are 1 block away from our county historical society and largest public library. So in terms of the out-of-town researcher, we're really convenient. And there's a hotel about 3 blocks away. So we often get people coming here from out of the area, spending a few nights, and they'll hit us up for a few hours, go over to the courthouse, maybe the next day come back, go see some cemeteries. So that's our story.
But yeah, we cover mainly Luzerne and Lackawanna counties. We have a little bit outside of that in our diocese of our church records collection, which is our main, it's Roman Catholic church records. That covers some of the, a little bit more surrounding like Wayne and Pike counties like that, but our main emphasis is Luzerne and Lackawanna counties.
That's fantastic. Sandra, you were talking and described the perfect genealogist fantasy trip. You get to do the courthouse, cemeteries, and a genealogical society, all within a few blocks of each other.
Yes.
I wish my husband would give me that for Christmas. Like, that would be a good one, you know. Send me somewhere I want to go and just put me up in a hotel with my computer and a pile of papers. So, in terms of your collection, Sara, you were mentioning the Roman Catholic Church records. I have to imagine those are pretty popular with the researchers.
Yeah, they've been a huge boost since we brought them onto our collection. The Diocese of Scranton agreed to let us digitize their records, all 11 counties that were included in that. It's been a huge boost because, I mean, there's a lot of different religions covered in our area, but Roman Catholic is such a huge one here. It's such a huge percentage. So it was a big, for people looking for baptisms and that of their ancestors, it was a huge boost. And it definitely is the one that people look for the most when they come.
What are some other records that you have that people can't wait to see when they get there?
I think that depends on the researcher. What we really focus on is I guess I'll call it the private record, as opposed to a public record, such as a deed or a will or a marriage license application. We focus on the records that you can't get your hands on, or you wrote a letter and it's been ignored for a year, even with a donation. So again, it depends on what you're really looking for. If you go to our website, we do have our index available. So you can see, under funeral home records, well, what funeral homes do we have? What years do we have? Cemetery records. As Sarah was mentioning, our church records. You can see, was the priest diligent in keeping the record and actually keeping it safe? It shocks me that these sacramental registers, many times a book or two are missing. And it's like, how do you lose something like that? But yet it happens. In terms of popularity, it absolutely is the Roman Catholic Church records that has been driving people here from all over the United States. I mean, speaking from personal experience, it's a joke, but I want what I want. And I want to see those records. So I'm fortunate. All of my ancestors came to this area and stayed in this area. So my ancestral churches are 10 minutes away. So I'm polite. I'll write a letter. I'll be ignored. And then I'll show up at their door with a box of baked goods. So it's kind of hard to turn me down.
I think we've all used a little bit of bribery at times in our research. Nothing wrong with that. What I'm really struck by what you just shared is your depth of knowledge of the area. Yeah. So I think if you're a researcher who's used to using just a computer site, either Ancestry or Family Search or MyHeritage or Find My Past, you're just searching sort of these high-level records and censuses and city directories. But when this person comes to a place like yours, like they're getting people with this, I think they call it like institutional knowledge, but it's like you are experts in that area. So what are some things that you've shared with people or that come up often that people are surprised by when they, in terms of Lackawanna and Luzerne County?
One of the biggest ones that we found is the fact that there, for quite a while, Lackawanna County, like it was Luzerne County, covered a big area, covered Scranton. There's a lot of townships and things up there that were in Luzerne County first, and now they're part of Lackawanna County. So they try to distinguish with them, like even when they're looking at the records, to say, okay, you have to, it currently is in Lackawanna County, so that's where you actually have to look. Even though your census record says, okay, Luzerne County, right now it's actually not there. Because coming from out of the area, if they only grew, if they were only from, say, California or that, and they've never actually been here, they don't know the boundaries in that. They only see on that census it was Luzerne County, and they don't know that it's a completely different area right now. So to try to bring that to their, little details like that to their attention is always important.
I would say one of the things that surprises most people, which surprises me that they might disagree until it's proven that what I'm saying is true, is someone will say, according to the census, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my ancestor, they lived on this street and there was a church 3 houses away. And I have been sitting here for the past 2 hours and I can't find them in that church. So I will say, well, who are your ancestors? And they will tell me a very obviously Italian name. And I will look and I'd say, well, that's because 3 houses away, it's a Polish church. And they're like, but why wouldn't they go there? Well, because your ancestors spoke Italian, and I guarantee they went 3 miles away and went to that church. And they'll say, but that church they could walk to, it's so close. And I say, but they want to worship in their own language. They want to meet with their community. So then they'll go and they'll look in those records and surprise, I was right. and that I just it surprises me that people are not thinking in terms of ethnicity and the desire to be with people who speak your language, especially a church, especially your priest, your pastor. So
yeah, and there was some churches even in the area that were split off where, say, like some Polish people went to a German church for a while, and it split up because the pastor said, you know, we're not serving them well here with the language barrier and all of that. So there's, you know, there's churches that sprung out, and knowing with us having done the research in that for a while, we know the ins and outs of the history of some of them to tell them, you know, which church to go to when it's split up like that.
Excellent. What you just shared, I was just thinking about this morning, is how, as researchers, we're not looking at people in terms of community. We look at them in terms of being an individual. And really, they're a part of a family, they're a part of a neighborhood, they're a part of their ethnic group, or they're a part of their religious group. And we need to look at all those things when we're researching them. We can't just think of them as, you know, John Smith, born in 1932, and da da da. We really have to think about them as full human beings living in communities.
well, there were no social services. You know, if your husband is killed in the mines and you have 7 children under the age of 10, you cannot go to your county welfare society. You know, you relied upon your neighbors, and you lived in an ethnic neighborhood, and you relied on your church. That's who took care of you. Would they walk several miles to fellowship with their community? Absolutely. And that surprises people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like even the distances that people will travel, people don't realize that people walk some pretty far places then to get where they wanted to go. Like they really didn't think about the distance, they just went.
That is surprising. So it wasn't uncommon for people to walk a couple miles to church to be with their
No,
people.
No, not at all.
I mean, and what surprises me is you're looking at these baptism records and you're seeing the day the baby's born and the day the baby's baptized. And you know that mother who has just given birth has a house full of young children, but yet she got up, she got dressed, she got that baby to church to be baptized within 3 days or within a week.
Yeah, it was a very short time period.
And you're thinking, oh my goodness, how did you get everybody to church?
Yeah. It is. It's really, yeah, when you think about the logistics of it, it really is shocking.
So what other kinds of things, you mentioned the church records and the funeral home records, what other kinds of records do you have that would be special, you know, and people would be delighted to see when they come to visit?
We have cemetery records. We were gifted some original newspapers that were very old, that they had not been microfilmed, which we thought was very shocking. So we digitized those. They're from the Hazleton area. So we are the only source to find this, I'll call it a gap in a newspaper collection that is online, you know, with newspapers.com, that we have a few of those missing years.
Especially more recently, we've been growing. We have a lot of high school yearbooks. And we've been, or as a matter of fact, our collection has increased more and more, especially in the last few weeks, of the high school yearbooks. Some pretty old, it's like the 20s and 30s. There's, so people that don't have a picture already of their relatives, they could actually go into those yearbooks and see a picture of them.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. What about, do you collect genealogies that people have completed on families in the area?
Yes. If you have completed a genealogy and you would like us to have a copy of it, we will digitize it and give the copy back to you. One of the things that we really focus on is being digital. You know, paper is on its way out, and people are computer savvy, and they they're used to that sitting in their pajamas at 3 o'clock in the morning doing their genealogy. So
It's true. The things that you've digitized, are those available to people at home through a membership, or just on site, or both?
Unfortunately, we have nothing in place that to put the records online, and it's for several reasons. And the biggest stumbling block is getting back to the type of records, the bulk of our collection. Again, it's records that were created to be private. So if it's a church record, you might find, or you will likely find, illegitimacies. If it's cemetery records, you might find references to suicides. These things were not put in the record with the intention that someone, the general public, is going to be seeing this. So when we approach the record holder, so if it's, say it's a church, that's their first concern, is confidentiality. And what we negotiate is, if you allow us to make a digital copy and have it at our facility for the public to come in, there's a 70-year privacy rule. So you are not going to see a record unless it's at least 70 years old. Further, you cannot get, as a patron, a full page of a record. So you can only get your ancestors' record. We will, extract that information and put it with the header. And that has made our record holder comfortable. So if we were to say, hey, we're going to put these on the internet, they wouldn't have a conversation with us. A second part of that is, which I don't think I mentioned, is we are 100% volunteers. There is no one paid here. We are just a group of passionate genealogists getting together every week to have fun. And we invite the public to come join us. And we're a small group, small but mighty, and we all have to wear many hats, different hats. Sara is our webmaster, which she has taken on that responsibility. And to be quite honest, we just are not sophisticated enough to be able to do something like that. We're just really great at what we do, and that is convincing record holders to allow us to make copies and share it with the public. And unfortunately, you have to either come here or you have to have one of our genealogists fill a research request for you. So no, we have no plans to digitize.
Well, I mean, you've digitized, but making it accessible for
Making
all.
it
Yeah, that's,
I mean, they
yeah.
can see it, but only at our site.
Yeah, I think that's completely reasonable. My own genealogical society is digitizing their church records, and these were collected before the internet. So there's not that privacy concern, and these aren't, because I'm in Berks County, Catholic faith wasn't as large here. It was mostly Protestant. So there's not the level of detail that sometimes in a Catholic sacramental register. I've seen some pretty interesting things in my own family on those. Lots of extraneous notes. And I'm like, what did this priest write in Latin? I need to figure this out. What are these extra comments on my ancestor? But part of the digitization effort is to, one, have a backup. So in case something horrific happens, to the building, the records are going to be fine. And we have had records stolen where people have walked out with a completely bound book, either intentionally or unintentionally, right? You never know the intent of the person, if they just stuck it in their bag by accident, or if they wanted to take that entire bound volume from 17, whatever. But it's more or less for the volunteers to make their job easier too, for when research requests come in. They can easily print that page out, or, several pages and stuff. Digitizing is a funny thing, I think, because if you take away those records from societies or make them completely available on the internet, how does the society stay alive in terms of revenue and volunteers? I don't know.
Um, since you brought that up, we a fairly large public cemetery in our area, and we were digitizing their records and their plot cards, and their full collection, maps. It was wonderful. And this is before we had a policy of not giving out complete collections. And someone came in and they obtained, with our permission, copies of all of the cemetery's records, and then they put them on Find a Grave. We have yet to have another person come in and look at those records that we spent how many, 20, 30 hours digitizing them. The expense, again, we're all volunteers. So not only are we passionate about genealogy, but we also have to be fundraisers. And yeah, so we learned the hard way that you can only get your family, because once it leaves our facility, we've lost control. So
and there's a place for societies too, because okay, if everything's online, everybody has all that information, but at the same time they lose that personal, the extra knowledge that we've, being here and everything that we've gained. It's a, it'd be a big loss to just have everything just put online and just have it. They lose that extra little bit of knowledge that goes with it.
Yeah, I think so. You lose the connection to the area. Well, it's like back to that community thing again that we talked about. Like, the new community now is the one we create for ourselves and the one we find, I think, and we do that through genealogy. And if you go to a local historical or genealogical society, you're finding a new community in a sense through your ancestors. I've walked into ones and surprisingly found out I was like third cousin once removed from, the gentleman helping me. We figured that out. Let me think what else I want to ask you. The memberships that you have. So when people ask for, if they're from far away and they can't travel there through their ideal genealogical road trip, what can you offer to a researcher that can't get there?
We have a great research staff here. There's a couple of us that go, like they research, the requests come in. They just had to give us background information, like date, general dates that they're looking for, if it's, particular marriage record and that kind of thing. They could just send it in to us and let us know, give us an idea of the church that they're looking at. It definitely helps to go onto our website at NEPGS.com and take a look at our index first before they put in a request. That way they see exactly what we have. Just to get an idea of churches to narrow it down, because it makes our job a little easier. But this way they're able to get the information and not have to, it's kind of a indirect way to get the information. It's not like online, but you could get it from home just by putting in that request.
And what if somebody had a more general request, like I'm looking for the parents of Isaac Kowalski, born in 1872. They don't have anything other than that.
Yeah, and we've had that happen, something similar to that. We've had that happen multiple times. And just really, we just had to use basically our knowledge. If they at least have like a town name in that and an ethnicity, we have to use our own knowledge then to try to narrow down. And, especially if they don't have a church name in that, our knowledge base definitely helps us to get those, more generic requests fulfilled.
Okay.
You just said that, and I was thinking, okay, Mr. Kowalski for, what was it, 1872? I'm thinking he probably went to the first Polish church in the area, which would have been in Nanticoke. So, yes, we can handle obscure.
And that's a great example of the knowledge that you have. You can immediately think in your brains already this is the church he would have went to, and you can get people set on the right direction rather than floundering around, trying to figure out where to go next.
It surprises me. People will come in and, they'll spend the day and, you hear them sighing. So of course it's what's going on, and they'll say, oh, I can't find this or I can't find that. And I'll, if the computer next to them is free, I'll sit down and tick, 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 tick. I'm like, is that what you're looking for? And Like, how did you find that so quickly? And again, I don't mean to sound conceited, but I know what I'm doing. Yeah, and so if you come in, you're going to find, just a group of people who are passionate about genealogy, who are just as excited as you are about your family. And we really want you to have the very best experience here. If you have a brick wall, bring it on. It's funny. We'll have people, they come in, and we're a library, so it tends to be quiet, and you'll hear every now and then these little noises, these exclamations or sighs or whatever. And of course, it's like, did you see a mouse? What's happening? And they'll tell you, I've been looking for 10 years and I just found that. And it's just, we get excited with them. So it really pays to come see us, because if I don't know the answer, there's a handful of other knowledgeable staff members who maybe, I refuse to do Irish genealogy. I refuse it. Sarah has a certification in it. So if someone comes in, and they're looking for Cornelius MacDonald, my eyes glaze over and here's Sarah.
We complement each other's knowledge base. Not everybody knows everything, but yeah, between us, we have, a decent amount that we could provide for everybody.
But even these research requests that come in, you're paying for an hour of our time, and you're going to get that hour. If you look at that request, and again, it seems obscure, and you followed your first instinct, we'll show it, around to each other and be like, what do you think? Where else can I go? What can I do? So you're not getting one person. You're getting the whole staff. We really want you to find your records. We want you to leave here saying, I had the best day ever, and so that's what we strive for.
That's so wonderful. And I love how you offer that second set of eyes and that expert opinion, and viewpoint. For anyone that walks in the door, you can say, oh, did you look at it like this? And they're like, oh, and all of a sudden brick wall tumbling down, because I think we all get a little myopic, a little, crazed in our research and only look at it one way. Well, this has to be it. This has to be it. And we kind of build our own brick wall in the process. And somebody else can look at it from a different direction and say, oh, how about this? How about if you try this spelling of the name? Or Robert went by this other name, around here. That was a popular nickname or something. There's other just things like that.
Right. Or someone, we had a gentleman come in from San Antonio, Texas, and he was planning a trip to Ireland. And he said, it's critical that I find my ancestral village. And again, that Irish genealogy. So we're looking in his direct line, and there is just no information other than he's from Ireland, which we knew that. So again, this man is like, I have the trip planned. And it's like, well, let's see who else he was surrounded by. The next door neighbor, or somebody held a funeral from your ancestor's house. Why would they have done that? Then looking at that other person had an obituary and had the county that they were from. So then that narrowed things down. And then going into those Irish records, we found him. So, again, taking those blinders off, that sometimes you just need somebody, who is not so deep and so focused and so in the weeds as you are, who can just say, well, what about trying that? And lo and behold, there you go.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's so great. And I bet he had the best trip.
He did. Yeah, he sent me pictures.
That's great. Forming that community again around genealogy. So what haven't I asked you about NEPGS. I should get all my letters right.
Our most
Correct.
memorable discovery.
Yeah, what's something memorable that...
Well, it's not so much that we found a really incredible record or, something really unusual in that record. I received a request from a woman who she said they had just placed her grandmother in hospice and that she would be dead in a few days. And her family had asked her to write the grandmother's obituary. But when she started talking to her family members, they realized they didn't know all the siblings' names. They knew that she was one of 9, but yet they had some family members who left the area and, they weren't talked about. So she asked for my help, and I was thinking, well, this is an easy request. Census records are going to have your siblings' names. Her grandmother's marriage license application is going to verify, her mother's maiden name. It will give her occupation, her place of work before she was a homemaker. A yearbook would confirm, was she a high school graduate? So I was very, quickly able to fulfill the request, and I emailed her the information. And within a few minutes, I heard back, and she wrote that she was in tears and that I had given her family such a gift. And she went on to write that apparently at some point her grandmother had suffered a debilitating illness and it had changed her appearance. And she was so devastated about the physical changes in her appearance that she destroyed every photograph that she had of herself. And what did I send her? Her high school yearbook photograph.
Aww.
So to see Graham as a young person, she was just filled with joy. And again, you think, yearbooks, census records, they're not exciting. But yet to that particular individual, it made a huge impact. And then there was another time, more recently, again, getting back to being part of the genealogy community, a woman came in with her older sons. I would say she was probably in her 70s. And immediately her sons sit down at the computers and they just really start digging into our records. And of course, this 70-some-year-old woman apparently was not very computer savvy, and she was very hesitant to do much of anything. So again, I want everybody who comes here to have a positive experience. And I sat down with her and I said, what is it you want to find? And she said, I just want to find my parents' marriage records. Well, that's easy. So we found the church record and, she was looking at it and she's like, oh, the witnesses, she was talking about them and, oh, the priest, and taking it a step further, I'm like, well, let's look at the marriage license application. Again, easy record, find it on Family Search. And the record popped up on, the computer screen, and she just leaned in and started weeping.
Aww.
And then she said, look, it's my parents' signatures. And she touched the screen of the computer. And, it was just such a simple thing, but yet, wow. And it's just a reminder that with these everyday records that really don't have these extreme values, that they mean so much to that person who's looking for them. And it just really, if you talk about something that's memorable, this woman weeping at her parent's signature, but then, memorable. We had another woman come in and she said, hey, I planned a trip to Lithuania. I'm going to Great. But of course, question, I want to find my ancestral village. Don't we all? But the good thing, and again, when we're slow, I just sit down and start reading the records just to see what's there. And one of the things that I have noticed over and over again is our ethnic churches. And by ethnic, I mean a church where the priest did not speak in English. And often, not always, the priest recorded the village name, incorporated it into the record. So I said, well, let's look at a baptism record. And the priest, he wrote both the parents' names, and he not only wrote the babies' names, but also the grandparents' names, the mother's maiden name, the village that they were from in Lithuania, and he gets a gold star, the parish that they worshiped in Lithuania.
Wow.
We hit the jackpot. The unfortunate thing was she was so new to genealogy, she had no clue how significant this record that we are all pea green with envy that she has this huge paragraph. It had everything except for, their shoe sizes. And she's just like, okay, all right, writing it down. And I'm like, oh.
It's like walking into a casino and doing a jackpot and going, what's so hard about this?
Right in the first try. I was right in the first try.
Yeah.
Right? But no, it does. It really warms our heart to be able to help people find like little details like that, especially since they want that connection to their ancestors. Some of them come in for, dual citizenship purposes and things like that. And to be, it warms our heart. It really is. It's personal for us too, because we do want them to find that information.
Beautiful.
And we want them to tell all of their friends.
We do. We want them to tell them what a good experience they had, so that they could then come in and have the same good experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anything else that you would like to share about your society for people?
Just to check out our website again, NEPGS.com. It'll give them a really, really full idea. Or there's an index there. I mean, they can't view the records on there, but they could at least see exactly what they have. They could go into each tab and say, okay, this is the yearbooks we have. This is the funeral home records. It'll give them a good gauge for even when they come in and plan a trip to us. It'll give them, it'll budget their time better if they have an idea of exactly what they want to look at when they come.
We are always on the lookout for records. And we have one volunteer that's what he does, is he knocks on the doors and he sends the emails and he calls over and over again. So if anybody knows of any, record holders, they are willing to, share them with us. We have a whole staff of volunteers that's all they do, our digitizing guys. And we like to keep them busy. And we just received a grant for a book scanner. So they're planning on taking it on the road to the Anthracite Heritage Museum, that there are some coal mining records when coal miners received their mining certificate. That's something new that's going to be coming to our collection in the upcoming weeks, depending on how quickly they work.
But yeah, we're always adding things, so it's always good to keep checking back with us too.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. Yeah, people think of genealogy as being static, and well, don't we have all the records from the 18 whatever year? Like, no, like, because there's business records, and always like churches broke off from each other. Like they formed new congregations, and sometimes there's pastors' records or family Bibles that show up, or funeral homes that close, or,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something that shows up.
Yeah, speaking of churches that broke off, we are in the process, or I think we're getting close to wrapping up the Polish National Catholic Church, which is an offshoot. We'll have that collection coming up.
Yeah,
wow.
It's always exciting to be able to add more and more, because like you said, there's always something new. There's never just a stop point. There's always something to find.
And in terms of our digitizing, we do it for free. The only thing that we ask is that you purchase, and by you, the record holder, the device that we put the records on. So if it's a hard drive, we ask that you reimburse us the cost of the hard drive. But Otherwise, like when we did the Scranton Diocese, that's 11 counties, over 300 churches. We had one volunteer that drove around. He'd pick up the records, bring them back to our facility. They'd get digitized, and he'd drive them back along with the hard drive. And again, we asked for nothing other than reimburse us that, cost, so we don't have any, out-of-pocket expenses. So it's a great deal.
Wow. That's fantastic. I mean, for a church too, it's a backup of their records, that they have another set of those off site in case anything happened.
Well, and when you see the condition that some of them were in when they were digitized, it's nice to have that while they're still okay, to have that backup, especially because they're not going to get any younger, the records. They're not going to, still to speak. But this way, they at least have that backup just in case, because you can say, you never know, natural disaster, but it's there in the digitized area.
Yeah.
But one of the things that, we try to sell is you don't ever have to handle these books again. You can put them in your fireproof safe. Your secretary can just sit there at her computer and click, 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 and pull up. Our records are so high quality. You really look like you can just reach through the screen and turn the page. So that's a huge selling point because, as Sara alluded to, these records, some of them, the pages are, they're chipping, and as you turn them, little bits are falling to the floor. Mm-hmm. And to know you don't have to have it rebound, you can just put it away somewhere safe, and it never has to be handled again.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And just to emphasize, so this is a service that your society provides to people that have records of genealogical interest. You go in, you pick them up, scan them, put them on a hard drive, give that place a copy of the records, and you have a copy of the records.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
We're always looking for volunteers.
It helps. We love being able to volunteer, but to have even more people, it makes it easier. It gives a more knowledge base, because the more people you bring in, the more knowledge base, and it helps us out. We could help more patrons that way. The more people.
Okay, so I think it's important for people to realize too, if you are new to research, in genealogy, and to definitely join your local genealogical society, even if you don't have relatives or ancestors in that area, because you're going to learn the method of researching. I learned a ton in I don't have any ancestors in the county that I live in right now, but I have learned so much about how to research church records, tax records, census records.
Read Latin.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Read Latin. Prothonotary records, what the prothonotary does. Read old deeds, and I can take that knowledge and go to another county in Pennsylvania and definitely use it. I mean, it's not wasted time. And the methods
get something out of the membership to there, even like you said, even if it's on a personal level, it's on that that professional, so to speak, knowledge.
And you also, you never know what you're going to find. That, you may say with confidence, oh, I found every record and my people aren't, they're only there for 2 years. You never know what you're going to find in a record that maybe it doesn't really refer to your family, but it's a similar situation. And you'll be thinking, hey, they went here after there. Maybe my family did too. You never know what you're going to pick up.
I think that is a great place to end it. You never know what you're going to find, and you never know what you're going to pick up when you go and you do research. That's perfect. Well, Sara and Sandra, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, for telling us about not only the Northeast Pennsylvania Genealogical Society, but your experience there and what people can find there. And I think, it's a no-brainer to me. If I had ancestors in Lackawanna, I'd be beating down your door to get there. For sure. For
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Denise, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I want want to thank Sara and Sandra again for sharing all their experiences and all NEPGS has to offer. The Northeast Pennsylvania Genealogical Society is one of those resources that you don't want to miss as a genealogist to really get the most out of your research. I'd really appreciate it if you left a review of the podcast, especially on Apple, because so many people access their podcast through Apple. You can also leave me a comment through my website, paancestors.com, or on Twitter or Instagram. Check it out in the show notes.